Okay, this video is an experiment. It's called Nutrition Myths Busted with Science. So on YouTube, they send me messages, YouTube does, on my thing, and it says, you should make a video called Nutrition Myths Busted by Science because there is high interest in this topic. All right, so I just wrote this like in 2 minutes. All right, myths. Other diets are as good as low-fat vegan, because you'll often hear carnivore, paleo, keto, and all these other nonsense factories say, so-and-so lost weight or did something good. And I would say there's something called the Hawthorne effect, whereby when you closely observe people and are paying a lot of attention to them and giving them a lot of attention and support, they can get really good results with any diet for a short amount of time. Let's say, a couple of months, 6 months, maybe even a year. But then the reality of it starts setting in, and they're just not usually sustainable. Most of the people I know who went paleo, keto, carnivore, Atkins, and all that initially had some success, lost weight loss, water weight loss, and then they came back and were fatter than before, and they were sicker and they didn't feel good. Versus low-fat vegan, it's the only diet that can reverse coronary artery disease. There's no other diet that can do that. It's quite obviously the best diet when you look at it more closely. It can prevent and reverse coronary artery disease. Esselstyn's results weren't even just a little bit better. In the Lyon study, for example, they were like 30 to 40 times better than the optimized version of the Mediterranean diet. The Mediterranean diet's a joke compared to low-fat vegan diet. Esselstyn's diet is a low-fat vegan diet. Dr. McDougall's diet is a low-fat vegan diet. My version, the Spartan vegan diet, it's a low-fat vegan diet. Okay, another myth is that America has the best healthcare system in the world. It's got the most expensive system in the world, but the outcomes are not that good. The AMA, formerly called the American Medical Association, perhaps ought to be called, I'm not even going to say this word here, but you can see it, you can laugh. Okay, because if you include this word here, AB, you know what, Ortions, and you include this new thing, like the lady who cleans your house, you call her a mem, A, and a D, the maid, it loses more than it saves. And if you think of all the wasted opportunity, all these people with diabetes, hypertension, obesity, coronary artery disease, that could have been saved by a low-fat vegan diet, but instead they dwindle away taking pills and going for surgeries. It's not even funny how crappy it is. Their cure rate for diabetes, coronary artery disease, hypertension, it's zero. It's hard to be much worse than that. And they call themselves the gold standard. Okay, and then the other thing is that American doctors are experts in health. And I can tell you, if you want to learn about health, the fastest way to do it is make sure you don't look at the textbooks, because almost zero useful information is in those books. Those books are just a joke. They're used to sell drugs. Even the best doctors too. Like, by the way, I have friends who are doctors and real smart doctors. There's one internal medicine doctor. He's got this encyclopedic memory, and these other internists tell me, "Oh, he's so smart." And I'm like, well, I'm not even. I'm not going to go in more detail. I don't want to be mean, but let me just put it this way: I can guarantee to you, 100%, he doesn't know almost anything about the cause of the common diseases or about nutrition or diet. So he's not able to cure people. And he even has health problems himself because of that. So I'm not going to say who he is or what he is, but I'm just telling you that's typical. You could go to the head of all the departments in the Ivy Leagues related to internal medicine, and I bet you won't find one who knows the basics of NETs, nutrition, epidemiology, toxicology, and the things that start with the letter S. The best endocrinologists, they don't know what causes diabetes or how to treat it with a diet, and that's the best way to treat it. The internists don't know hypertension and how to treat it. The nephrologists don't know how to treat chronic kidney disease. You go to these nephrologists, lots of their patients are drifting into kidney failure, almost on dialysis, and they've never been taught about diet. I know that for a fact. I've talked to plenty of them. Okay, and then the other thing is you go to the famous ones. They're going to quote some famous guy out of UCLA. He's a famous nephrology, kidney doctor. His name is Dr. Kamyar Kalantarzadeh, and he does seem pretty nice, and he's making progress in the right direction. I've seen some of his lectures, but they're like baby talk. He's like, well, we'll try to reduce the protein, we'll try to increase our intake of plants, we'll try to help slow things down, and that's like BS. No, you're 100% vegan, 100% low fat, low phosphorus, low sodium. And he talks about lowering the sodium to 2,000 milligrams. BS. Kempner would get it down to 150 milligrams, okay? Now, that requires supervision. That might be too low, but you could easily get it down to 400, 500, So anyways, they always wimp out and go half butt, Oncology doesn't go half butt when it gives chemotherapy. It goes over the top, okay? It was funny. There's this one speaker, he said, all oncologists are psychopaths. I thought that was a bizarre but interesting statement. Okay, cardiologists, they don't know how to treat coronary artery disease. They might know Esselstyn's diet. They might use it themselves because a lot of them are pretty fit looking. but that certainly doesn't get recommended to patients on a routine basis. I've never seen it recommended in Western hospitals. Rheumatologists, they don't know how to treat autoimmune disease. Surgeons don't know how, they don't know wound healing. I've never met a surgeon who can answer this question. How do you improve blood flow to a wound? I've never met a single one who knows that question. And I've talked to some, pretty advanced ones, big shot attendings, and they haven't known what I would consider basic stuff. I've never met a surgeon who knows Burkitt's abdominal pressure syndrome, pretty basic stuff. A health coach knows that, okay? Okay, another thing I hear sometimes is that, oh, the best science is done by atheists because they're more objective. That's an absolute joke. Atheism leads to conformity, because in atheism, you no longer have a God that tells you I must do what is right because that's what God wants me to do. That's what leads to individual. Religion is what leads to individualism. And you need individualism for people to stand up to the peer pressure, okay? Atheism leads to conformity. Atheism leads to big money taking control of the reason why all the universities stink right now, and the reason why they become like nonsense factories. Look at psychology. It's a nonsense factory because the peer pressure says you must cave into peer pressure. So they all do. And therefore, what they say is essentially meaningless. How can a psychologist who thinks men and women are the same and doesn't know the difference between a man and woman, how can that person give you relationship advice? It's a joke, okay? Atheism ruins inspiration. Once you tell people life is meaningless, why should they do anything other than seek a little Epicurean pleasure for themselves, and go for the money, okay? So the money takes over everything. So anyways, this was just an experiment. Given this title, given that it had been recommended to me, specifically recommended to me, I'm not joking. They told me, do this. We'll see if it gets any views. All right.